All right. What's the topic for today?
Privacy.
Privacy. Just off the bat, what's privacy? And I'm not talking about a cyber ethical sense. I'm not talking about it in any sense. What is just like privacy full stop? What is it? When you put, well, first off, where do you see this word in your everyday life? You need
Social media.
social media. Yeah, there's privacy settings. Where are other places where this word comes up?
In college.
Say that again.
In college.
In college? Yeah, so in what sense in college? Like where do you run into it? I'm not quite sure why we're all laughing, but okay.
What do guys say restroom?
That's a good spot. Yeah, there are laws around privacy with restrooms. Also, how many of you have stayed at a hotel before at any point in your life? Raise them, okay. What is there a little thing for in a hotel?
Do not disturb.
Yeah, do not disturb or privacy please. It's written on that little thing that goes on the door that looks like this, where like you put it there and it tells the person not to come into your room because you're in there and you don't really want a stranger coming to clean things while you're there. So yeah, it says do not disturb or privacy. So yeah, this is what we're talking about. That's what we mean by privacy in our everyday lives. Name a place you have privacy.
No.
Name a place where you have more privacy than you usually have. So yeah, we're going to come back to this question of do you ever have privacy, like full privacy. Yeah. So usually you think of you are at least more private when you're at home than when you're like walking around the streets. And another one, when you're at John Jay, in some sense you have more privacy in the bathroom than you would like in the classroom, to at least some degree. Now, hopefully you have good amounts of privacy in the John Jay bathroom, but you know, who knows? Who can say for sure? All right, so if that's what we're talking about generally with privacy, then now let's like go philosophical and ask, what is it? What is the definition of privacy? What does it mean when you are private or you have privacy or your privacy is being respected or something like that? What does it mean? And I don't need like a specific definition that captures the whole thing. Just what are some things that are true when you have privacy? Or when are some times that you have privacy other than like in your home? Or what is it when you're at home that makes it the case that you have privacy? Oh, is that a hand or a stretch? Okay. Any takers? Yeah, so the door being locked. What is it about locking a door that increases your privacy? No one can come in. So what is this element of privacy? So privacy is a matter of what with this? And when you lock the door and it gives you privacy and people can't get to you, that there's a sense in which like nobody can, well, they just can't get to you. And that is part of the privacy.
Being alone, I guess?
Yeah, there's this alone element to privacy. So alone, no, and it's not just that you're alone, it's that you can stay alone by preventing others from getting to you, so no one can get to you. Well.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that's just like privacy in an individual term.
So what are the other ways?
Because I think in the more general term, I think privacy is just about the seclusive, is that a word?
Yeah, seclusion or seclusive for the adjective, seclusion. Yeah, which again is like being left alone, and not just, when you're fully alone, it's not just that there's nobody around you. If you have full and complete privacy, what else is the case? It's not just you that they can't get to, it's what?
It's just that people don't want to know your private thoughts, like you just keep your thoughts to yourself.
Yeah, and it's not just you they can't get to, it's the things you're thinking and the things which are true about you. So information about you too. When you're fully private, you're alone, no one's coming to get you, nobody's coming and like interfering and taking away your being alone, and also no one knows
Where you live.
anything about you. So think about the most private person you can think of. Imagine somebody who has like absolute complete privacy. Where do you imagine this person living? We're imagining a fictional person right now. Where do they live?
In a cave.
In a cave. Why? Because who is in their cave? Is there anyone else in their cave when they're fully private? No. There's nobody else around, so they have this complete aloneness. And why are they in a cave as opposed to, say, Times Square?
You can be watched by
Yeah, you can be watched. If you're in a cave, there's literally no one else around, and you have big stone walls preventing people from, one, getting to you, and two, knowing anything about you, unless they literally come to your cave. And where is this cave going to be? Is it going to be like the middle of Central Park?
No.
Where's your cave?
In desert.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere. So the basic idea behind privacy is you go to the middle of nowhere where there's nobody else around, you have complete seclusion from anyone else, no one can get to you physically, no one knows anything about you. That is what we mean when you have absolute and complete privacy. But privacy, of course, it's a matter of degrees. You can be more or less private. And so we can all imagine this world in which you live alone in a cave. How many people would want to live in a world where they have this absolute and complete privacy? Is there anybody? Okay, so we got one. And this is just an individual difference thing. How many people would not want to live in this cave? Why not?
I like being able to interact with people.
Yeah, the main thing is when you have absolute and complete privacy, nobody else is interacting with you. It'd be very, very, very lonely. You could not talk to anyone because every time you talk to somebody, they get information about you. So if you live, you have to live as a complete hermit, and most people don't enjoy doing that. Now there are some people who really are just like to be alone and they like their own company, and for those people, complete privacy would be ideal. But most of us is not the case. So the question is, how much privacy do we want? And it seems like we want some, because you don't want somebody following you at all times. Like literally, the least private thing you could do would be to have somebody who just followed you around like a dog. And like literally everything you did, they were right there. You can think of it almost like, I guess who would be the least private people in the world?
Celebrities.
Celebrities are up there, but I can think of one that's even higher than that.
We people.
We people, the in general people.
General people.
Say that again?
In general.
General people.
Yeah, so general people,
Public figures.
but the absolute least so somebody who can never, ever get away from being seen by somebody else. I mean,
President.
so the president is another one. The more public you get, the less privacy you have. But the absolute top I can think of is somebody who has a conjoined twin. So what is a conjoined twin?
Someone that cannot, a twin cannot be separated.
Yeah, what it basically is when the pregnancy happens, the eggs like split but not fully, so two people are literally connected. So you can find like individuals who are like this, where literally you cannot leave your sibling because you are physically attached to one another. So that would be the ultimate case of no privacy, because everywhere you go, you have another person with you because you share a body. But outside of that case, everyone has at least a little bit of privacy. Like, generally, people know more what celebrities are doing than anyone else, but there's still at least some points in a celebrity's life when there's nobody else around and nobody knows where they are. At the very least, when they were babies, they had some privacy. So that's what we're talking about with privacy. That's just a general thing. This should sound familiar to everybody because you all, to some degree, want privacy in your life. When is a time in which you want a little privacy? Taking a shower, yeah. You don't want unless you have like an interesting niche webcam market, you don't want a camera in your shower while you're taking a shower. Like that's just not something you want generally. And there's lots of other things we want privacy for. So this is what we're talking about, everyday lives, nothing too complicated about this. Now we're gonna go full philosophy. Everyone on board so far? It shouldn't be, yeah. All right, so now let's go full philosophy and take this thing which we all understand in our ordinary way and divide it up so we can talk about it a little more clearly. Just in the same way that if you go into a biology classroom, they don't start telling you things about all the animals. They split them up. You've got the mammals versus the birds versus the reptiles. In the same way, we're gonna say this type of privacy, this type of privacy, this type of privacy, so we can be a lot clearer about it. So everyone on board with what we're about to do. All right, so there's two different types of privacy that the book talks about off the bat. They both start with the letter N. Does anyone know from the reading what those two words are? I can't spell, so hangman's tough.
Normal,
Yeah, that's,
something like this.
we got the norm.
Normal.
Not, I'll give you a clue, there's a few more letters.
Normative?
Normative, there we go. And then what's the other one, anyone know? It starts with an N, and next letter is A.
Natural.
There we go. You got it before I got to the end, so we succeeded. Natural versus normative. What do we mean when we say something's natural? Like if we just say like, well, when you're talking about natural, what are you generally talking about? Or what are we talking about with nature?
Nature, where that you have some sort of privacy.
Yeah, so in nature you do have some sort of privacy, and when we're talking though about like nature, what are we talking about? Let's not think about privacy, not think about anything. What are we thinking about with nature?
Like automatically you have some privacy.
You're answering a question I'm going to ask in about a minute, so you're ahead of me. Let's come down to my dumb level is what we're trying to do right now. So when we're just talking about nature, somebody says, I want to spend some time in nature. What are they talking about?
Like forest.
Yeah, you go to the forest. And did anyone put the forest there?
No.
No, it was just kind of there. Well, if you talk about New York City, it came from somewhere. So when we're talking about nature, we're just talking about something that it's just the way it is. So with natural privacy, this is a sort of privacy that you just kind of have. And it's this privacy you have when there's just happens to be no one else around. So if you're in nature, walking through the woods by yourself, do you have privacy? So imagine that you're in like a national park and you've left your phone behind because you don't want any distractions and you have no phone service and you aren't a very important person, so presumably there's no like CIA guard with you and you probably aren't important enough to think that anyone's following you. Do you have privacy? Yeah, you have privacy. But if you now walking along this trail come across another person, do you still have privacy? Not as much, at least. But has this other person done anything wrong? No, they're just there. Now, is it always the case when you lose privacy, the other person is doing something not wrong? Or are there sometimes when you lose privacy that somebody has done something to harm you? What is the case in which you had privacy and then you lose it? And it's not just like you come across someone in the woods, but literally what the person who took that privacy from you, you're mad at and you think they've done something wrong to you. Anyone got a case in which you had privacy and then you lost it and you're kind of pissed about it?
Being like your room and someone walks in.
Yeah. Imagine you're alone in your room and all of a sudden, like the Kool-Aid Man style, somebody kicks down the door and just jumps in. In this case, you had privacy before, now you've lost it. But are you mad at the Kool-Aid Man? Yeah, you're kind of pissed off at the Kool-Aid Man because he shouldn't be there in some sense. Well, if you come across the Kool-Aid Man walking, everyone know who I mean by the Kool-Aid Man? Have people seen these old Kool-Aid ads? Like Kool-Aid, like the really sugary drink. The old ad was, there was a guy dressed in a suit who would literally like break through a wall where children were and would just go like, oh yeah! Like almost like Macho Man Randy Savage style. And like just make a ton of noise, and it would be a big Kool-Aid person who literally broke through a wall. So if you can imagine that happening.
Actually, it was a big jar.
Yeah, it was a jar of Kool-Aid.
With the creepy smiley face.
Yeah, it was all very terrible. If you ever like want to wonder, or you're ever wondering what ads used to look like, that's a good one.
And it was a new flavor every week too.
Yeah, I could never mess around with Kool-Aid. It was too sweet for me. can't handle it.
Sugar-
So,
make it sugar
the
and water.
first case in which, like, if you come across the Kool-Aid man walking through the woods, just minding his own business on a hike, while you're walking through the woods minding your own business on the hike, he hasn't done anything wrong. That is natural privacy, when you just happen to be alone. But it's not like you have a right to it, or you should be left alone in this case. The other type of privacy, normative privacy, is the type of privacy you have when you're somewhere where you are alone and you should be alone, and anyone who comes into your space is doing something wrong. So natural is just kind of like you are alone, or one is alone. Well, normative privacy, there's a should be alone. And this is the big difference. Of these two, the first one, interesting in a certain sense, but not something we're going to be talking about. This is the one we're going to be talking about, normative privacy. Times in which you should be alone and should be left alone, and you feel you have a right to be left alone. Because this is the sort of one that comes up in cyber technology. Because the question with cyber technology is, to what degree should the average person be left alone, and to what degree has cyber technology prevented us from reaching that level, or create things that make it harder to reach that level? Is everyone on board generally with what we're talking about? So we're talking about the sorts of privacy you should have. Where are some other places you have normative privacy, or you should have privacy of the normative sort? We've said your bedroom. Yeah, the bathroom. That's a classic one of, like, if somebody kicks down the stall that you're in using the bathroom, there's a sense in which you're like, oh my God, they shouldn't have done that. It's not just like, oh, that's unfortunate. It's rather like an, oh my God, why are you doing that? So any sort of privacy like that. Any others we can think of? Yeah, changing rooms is another. Basically, in our society, anywhere you are at all naked or could be naked is someplace you should have a degree of privacy. That's generally how, and it changes by society. Like, certain places have much more, like, different views on where you should be fully private and what sorts of things should be private. But generally, every society has certain things where there should be some privacy. All right, so everyone think they understand normative privacy? We got it? Okay. So these are the privacies you should have. Now let me erase this. But not all normative privacy is the same. So we've got normative privacy. But then this divides up as well. So anyone know what this divide is from the book? There's, again, 3 words.
Accessibility?
Yeah, accessibility is one. 2 more, if you are anywhere near that part of the textbook, you can find it.
Decisional, kind of. Decisional.
Yeah, decisional privacy.
And informational.
Informational privacy. So, just to be clear, the reason we're dividing this up again is because these 3 things are all related and sometimes go hand in hand, and sometimes don't go hand in hand. So, sometimes you can have a lot of decisional privacy, but no informational privacy. Sometimes you can have a lot of informational privacy, but no decisional privacy. And what can often happen is someone can look and be like, oh, I don't have any, or I have extreme informational privacy, so I'm private. I'm an okay, everything's going fine. But in truth, because you're only thinking about privacy in one sense, you don't have nearly as much as you thought you did. So, before we move on, what are these 3 things? They're kind of in the names.
So accessibility is more of physical, so like.
Yeah, so if I tell you that I have access to someplace, or where is someplace you all have access to? What's the difference between somebody who has access to John Jay and somebody who does not have access to John Jay?
ID card.
Yeah, so an ID card, and what does it let you do?
Authentication.
It scans it.
It scans it, and then once you have that ID card, what can you do that somebody else without the ID card cannot? I'm asking a very simple, dumb question here. You can get in the building. That's what we mean by access. Accessibility is simply the ability to get in somewhere. So, who's somebody who has access to John Jay? Students, faculty. Who doesn't? Yeah, just random people on the streets. Like the tourist you go and find, if you meet the coolest tourist ever in Times Square, you're not allowed to bring them into John Jay unless they like sign in and various other things. But even then, they probably won't let you because you have to have a reason to be here. So that's what accessibility privacy is. Accessibility privacy, the more of it you have, the less people can physically get to you. So the greatest invention in the history of accessibility privacy is what? We've already actually talked about it. Nope, before this. Christina, we're going to use you as a guinea pig. You have to exit again.
Oh, no.
Door.
Yep, exit. So right now, we're using you as a guinea pig. This is not to shame you, it's just you happen to come in at the perfect time for an example.
But it's okay.
I'm sorry. So right now, there's a door here. Let us now reduce Christina's accessibility and increase our privacy. This is accessibility privacy. She cannot get in. Now, we are reducing our accessibility privacy. Thank you for demonstrating. Everyone, thank you. Alright, so that's what accessibility privacy is. Physically stopping other people from getting to you. Other great inventions increasing accessibility privacy are things like walls. Unless the Kool-Aid Man is around, nobody is coming in through this wall. You're good to go. So that's what accessibility privacy is. Simply people physically not being able to get to you. What is
and also, like, there are secret doors in certain rooms. Like, for example, if you pull the eye wash,
oh God, not the eye wash again.
like, it might open up a random door, or maybe this door that can, like, lead you to somewhere.
It tastes like regular water, by the way. I love that's cut off of the camera, like the camera doesn't get there, so I'm just gonna like walk off screen for a second, come back kind of covered in water, and then I'll be back. Yeah, so yeah, and this is the thing with secret rooms, is it decreases your accessibility privacy, which is why like having a house with doors, on the one hand you like it because you can get in and out, but the downside is other people can get in and out.
Yep.
And so that's what we mean by accessibility privacy. What do we mean by, well, let's do informational because I'm closer to here. What is informational privacy? Again, it's kind of in the name.
Exchanging one information with another, like one information with another with someone else.
Yeah, so when you have informational privacy, so you're right that it's having to do with information, and when you have informational privacy, are people gathering and exchanging this information about you? When you have the privacy. No, the whole idea is when you have informational privacy, people don't know things about you. So the more informational privacy you have, the more control over your own information you have. So this is a case of going back to the celebrities. Give me a celebrity that you want to talk about. Kanye West. Who has more informational privacy, you or Kanye West?
Kanye West.
No, he doesn't.
How many of you feel confident that any one of your classmates could name your significant other? How many of you feel confident you can name Kanye West's significant other? That is informational privacy that you have and that Kanye West does not. Because we all know who Kanye's family is, we know who his friends are, we know all of this. How many of you think you know these things about me? Probably less than know it about Kanye. So this is what we mean by informational privacy. The less people know about you, the more informational privacy you have. So the sorts of people who have more informational privacy are the less famous or the less important. Things like this. You did.
Paparazzi.
Yeah, so here's the big thing. It's like that's what paparazzi take away is informational privacy. If you go out to dinner and you don't take a photo of where you were and you leave your phone at home, no one's going to know where you are. But if Kanye West goes out to dinner, there's a good chance someone's going to take a photo of him and then post it to the internet to say, anyone who wants to see Kanye, he's at this restaurant right now. That's a lack of informational privacy. Now what's decisional privacy?
One choice, like personal choice.
So decision just means choice or personal choice. So if you have more decisional privacy, who's making your choices?